One thing is very clear. Tokenization is going to be one of the largest money-making opportunities that we ever have the opportunity to be a part of. And I do think that this is something that everyone should be focused on, because it's not just about, how much money is going to flood on chain, but it's also how much money is going to be transferred from boomers to millennials and even Gen X. So sit back, relax. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So recently, Generation Infinity put out a great post, and it was actually talking about that wealth transfer. We've talked about it over time, right, on this channel. The greatest wealth transfer in history. It is happening, right? I don't think that we need to, put a spotlight on it as much as we used to back in like 2020 and 2021, because everyone at this point probably is aware of this. But we have breaking. Deutsche Bank reports an $84 trillion wealth transfer from boomers to millennials and Gen X is underway, with mass tokenization just 2 to 3 years out. And yes, this is something that I do think that we should pay attention to. Now, of course, they're highlighting a lot of the major chains here that are starting to get adopted around tokenization. We look at, Ethereum, we look at other public chains like Stellar, for an example, Polygon, Hedera. There's so many great ones. Obviously, XRP, Algorand also. One thing that I really kind of see is a lot of people actually overlooking Algorand, which, it's going to be included in this video, obviously. But, when we think about what's going on, tokenization is becoming one of the biggest talked about subjects around the financial space. And I think that it's for, I think that it's serious, right? Like when we think about money and how to make money and what to invest in, I think tokenization is probably one of the most serious topics that you could actually address when it comes to how to make a lot of money, because I don't think that it's going to be about investing into stocks anymore. I think it's going to be investing into the underlying platforms that are tokenizing stocks, bonds, and real estate and so much more. Because if you think about it, right, if you have stocks tokenized on these networks that are going to be traded 24/7, 365 on these networks, and you're going to see Wall Street 2.0 on chain, again, trade it live 24/7, 365, just imagine what the underlying networks will be valued at. And that's something that gets me very excited about knowing how much adoption is happening behind some of these networks. So let's actually talk about, some of these networks, and let's actually talk about how much money currently is on chain. So this has actually dropped out a little bit because I do remember us being well over $20+ billion. I don't know if RWA.XYZ's platform is having a little bit of a mistake here, because even if we look here, we're still well over 21.6, $21.7 billion. So not too sure why it's saying only 19 over here, but regardless of that, we're still looking at stablecoins. We're still looking at, RWAs themselves. So about 21.7 billion in terms of stablecoins, over 231 billion. So a fully combined amount of like a little over $250 billion, which is, very significant, obviously, but it's not, to the point of like having, $1 trillion on chain officially, or, 5 trillion or 10 trillion, which we will get to, right? But what's interesting about this is, the entire crypto market is worth about, less than just $3 trillion, a little less than $3 trillion. Our top, I think that we hit, back in December was a little over 4 trillion. So if we really think about, where we're at right now compared to where we will be in, say, for so 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this is going to be one of the best investments that you could possibly make, because again, we're already being told from some of the biggest players, and we're already seeing all of the POCs as well around this, that tokenization is not slowing down. In fact, it's accelerating. And that's why I pay attention to what players like Ripple are telling us, because even back in the beginning of April, they said by 2033, a 0.6 trillion to $18.9 trillion shift is coming as tokenization reshapes global finance. And we look at the why here, right? Regulation, institutional adoption, real world assets like bonds and real estate, faster interoperable financial infrastructure. And again, when we think about this, right, we look at the other posts that really kind of got, posted around the same time. For an example, here we have the market for tokenized financial assets is accelerating and fast. And yes, it is, because institutions are starting to scale adoption, and they're starting to do this through a few initiatives. Actually, they're partnering up with some very solid networks. They're, hosting a lot of great events. They're working with some very prominent names outside of crypto as well, to get the ball rolling. And I look at some of these great networks, and you could see the value. And what's crazy is a lot of these networks are not even valued in the billions of dollars yet. But also, we got a big update back in February, because again, this was a big one around XRP. We have the future of finance is on chain with enterprise grade compliance features, a native DEX and AMM, accelerating RWA tokenization growth, and a global developer community. The XRP ledger is built for the next generation of institutional finance with fully open source technology. And that's, that was quoting this post here, where we have, for institutional DeFi to scale, it needs compliance ready interoperable infrastructure. The XRP ledger delivers with AMM trading and on-chain price oracles, tokenized RWAs, decentralized identity for secure transactions as well. Now, this is great, right? This is one of the few networks, right? Like, if we're actually looking at the networks here, we could see that the XRP ledger is ranking at number 10 with over $114 million tied to it. Hey, that's great. Incredible. But what about the other ones? Well, Hedera we can actually track. And I've reached out to RWA.xyz to try to get Hedera at it as soon as possible. But they've been expanding a lot around tokenization. I go back a little bit, just recently. I think this is like a month ago, right? We're excited to announce that we've joined the ERC-3643 org association. This is going to help scale the adoption of ERC-3643, a leading industry standard for compliant RWA tokenization. The ERC-3643 token standard is an open source suite of smart contracts that enables the issuance, management, and transfer of permission tokens. Also known as the token for regulated exchanges, TREX standard. ERC-3643's attention to compliance has led to it becoming the go-to framework for institutions with high-profile companies such as Citi and even ABN AMRO, tokenizing assets such as green bonds and even private equity. Other institutions such as the DTCC have also recently joined the association to help contribute to its goals of promoting and advancing the ERC-3643 token standard. By joining the association and supporting the TREX standard, we will support the growth and development of the standard through our deep experience in working with financial institutions on the Hedera Council. Alongside this, we will explore joint collaboration opportunities across the association and beyond to drive further institutional growth via ERC-3643 on the Hedera network. Now, to build upon this, we also got a big update, which was Tokeny. So we are excited to announce our partnership with the HBAR Foundation to accelerate institutional tokenization adoption on the Hedera network, an enterprise-grade and carbon-negative ledger. And this is actually through ERC-3643, which we'll talk about here in a second. But first, I want to give you guys a few insights into Tokeny. So number one, $28 billion fully tokenized already, which, by the way, not being tracked. We actually don't know a full amount of money that's actually on chain, because this is something that's not tracked, and it's well over the total RWA value on chain, which is why I say it's actually very challenging to understand how much money is already on chain. We don't know how much there is, but we also have 120 plus satisfied customers and 3 billion blockchain events indexed already. We could also see some of the players that it's selected by. ABN AMRO is one of them. We also have BNP Paribas here, Credit Agricole as well, and a few other names. So again, love to see that. And we could see that they do have so many big players already, tapped in and connected to it. We could see any EVM chain is also, able to be added, which also makes me think about XRP, because we know that the EVM sidechain is going live around XRP. But we also see additional names down here as well. I believe that Tokeny was working with additional players from the space. I remember them being announced in the past, but this is definitely one of those companies that a lot of people should be aware of if you do want to tap into tokenization in a big way. So love to see this. And here we have, of course, the announcement. And let me just kind of zoom in so that you guys can see it a little bit more. So here we have the collaboration. They're already collaborating through the nonprofit ERC-3643 Association Working Group to drive progress in RWA tokenization. And then down here, they do highlight the use case around Hedera and how significant it is. Around like in terms of like the efficiencies, 2.9 second finality, the fixed fees, things like that. But we have a few quotes. Number one, Tokeny's technology was designed from the start to meet the needs for institutions. Building on Hedera unlocks a powerful combination with enterprise-grade tokenization infrastructure on a network built for speed, security, and sustainability. The HBAR Foundation, which supports innovation and growth on the Hedera network, plays a key role in scaling tokenized finance use cases. By working together, Tokeny and the HBAR Foundation aim to accelerate the adoption of tokenized financial products and bring new levels of efficiency, transparency, and compliance to capital markets. We are thrilled to partner with Tokeny, whose solutions have already powered billions of dollars in tokenized assets. This collaboration reinforces Hedera's position as a leader for compliant digital finance and opens the door for institutions to confidently launch tokenization strategies on chain. Again, these are the types of announcements that we love to see, because this is actually accelerating everything around tokenization. We have here with this partnership, institutions can now bring assets onto Hedera in just a few weeks using Tokeny's white label tokenization platform, or seamlessly integrate on-chain finance APIs into their existing systems without the need for costly and time-consuming development. This is great, and they even do highlight that this partnership is driving the acceleration of institutional adoption of tokenization. And even on the right side, you can see all of the announcements from Tokeny. Like, here we have one around investments for EU, UK, Swiss, and even UAE investors via tokenization. Here we have another one around turnkey solution for institutional tokenization in Europe. Like, this is a company that's accelerating tokenization in a large way. But it's not just happening on Hedera and XRP. It's also happening on these other networks like Algorand. Algorand has over $400 million tied to it. Again, you wouldn't know because not a lot of people actually talk about Algorand, but if we look at the network list, we could see Algorand is quickly moving up the list, almost getting to the point where it's flipping Stellar. Now, Stellar is obviously another big one that we talk about, because Stellar does have over $476 million tied to it. And we also know that Stellar is aiming to 10x their RWA growth this year. We do know this from April 17th, and if they do 10x their overall amount on chain, they will be sitting at $4.7 billion. They would be number 2 on this list, and they would actually be closing the gap on Ethereum, which I find very interesting. Let's see what happens. But also XDC. A lot of people actually don't know this, but XDC, for being number 16 on this list, just recently announced that $500 million in RWAs is going to be tokenized on XDC over the next 90 days. And this was from the 14th. So by the end of the summer, XDC, if $500 million is going to be tokenized on XDC, that would immediately jump it into number 3 spot. These are the networks that I'm watching, right? The networks that are starting to accelerate and see the accelerated growth as well. Because at the end of the day, we know that it's not going to stop in the tens of trillions of dollars. It's going to stop in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. I do think that we will become extremely wealthy investing into this space and planting our seeds. I think that, the best thing to really kind of do here is have separate portfolios. One for the long term and one for the short term. Trade it cycle by cycle, take the profits, reinvest them into the long-term bag. But at the end of the day, I am planting seeds here because I know for a fact because of all of the research that I've done that, the next big area to make money isn't going to be in stocks. It's not going to be in traditional assets. It's going to be in the tokenization of every single traditional asset. And what better way to do that than by investing into the public blockchains, which we know are going to be the ones that are adopted, that are facilitating this and actually being tapped in by some big companies to accelerate this entire revolution. So, with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.